This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
It's one of those cases where the facts were already weaponized before the blood even dried. Charlie Kirk was assassinated in broad daylight, a single rifle shot from a rooftop during an appearance at Utah Valley University. Law enforcement knew immediately this wasn't a missed shot or a ricochet or a protest turned tragic. This was deliberate, planned, executed. But within hours of the press conference confirming his death, the echo chamber was already spinning a different narrative. The shooter was a patsy. The rifle was planted. The texts were fake. The FBI got it wrong twice. A woman was involved. Antifa, maybe even a false flag. It didn't matter what you believed, only that you believed something else. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because while the conspiracies exploded online, the evidence started quietly speaking for itself, and it didn't need hashtags to be heard. The suspect is Tyler Robinson, 24, from Spanish Fork, Utah. His name first hit headlines when he was taken into custody just hours after the shooting. And right out of the gate, police made one thing very clear. This was a politically motivated assassination. Now, in any case like this, we expect gaps at the start. Chaos breeds confusion. Timelines aren't always exact, but confusion isn't the same as conspiracy. And what we've seen in this case is a textbook example of how mistrust, digital noise, and a viral attention economy can try to rewrite reality, while the paper trail keeps marching forward. Let's start with the text. Prosecutors say Robinson sent messages to his romantic partner, messages that amount to a confession. I had enough of this hatred, basically, he wrote, referring to Kirk. He described planning the shooting for, quote, over a week. He gave details about trying to return to the scene to retrieve the weapon and how he got spooked by the police presence. He told his partner to delete everything. Then there was a message on Discord. Moments after the shooting. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry. That post, according to Discord, came from an account tied to Robinson. The language is consistent with the message he allegedly sent privately, and it wasn't just online. Investigators found a handwritten note, reportedly typed, and then printed, stating Robinson's intent to take out Charlie Kirk. That note, they say, was discovered by the father, who destroyed it before calling the authorities. Look, there's a lot of ingredients here that certainly play into conspiracy, without a doubt. But the FBI says the note's contents have been corroborated through interviews, metadata, and other digital sources. That's not theory. It's not court-admissible evidence, already included in the charging documents and confirmed by both federal and local authorities. So how do conspiracy theorists respond? They say it's all too perfect, too scripted, that the texts are AI generated, that the note never existed, that Robinson was manipulated into a confession or set up entirely. Some go as far as to say the gun was planted at the scene. And I say ask away. Questions need to be asked in this case. But when you go down these roads, you can't go down the roads believing you have the absolute answer and only looking for information that's going to confirm your bias. Because that's what it is. If you're saying this is what happened and you don't know what happened, it's just your bias, your opinion, and the only thing you're going to take in is things that reconfirm your opinion, then you're not objective and you're not looking at the facts to see what's going on. And look, there's a lot of weird stuff here. I completely agree. But at the end of the day, I also live in reality. And if that security camera footage shows him on it, getting into that spot on the roof, which it does, if that gun really shows his DNA on the trigger, if they can really trace that weapon back to his family, and that bullet to that gun, and his writing to him, it all seemed weird. I don't know anybody that writes like that at that age. I don't know many people that age, quite honestly, but I don't think many people write like that at that age, but some do. Doesn't mean it's not what you and your brain want it to be because you saw a TikTok. That sounds like, this sounds more realistic to you than that. You have to be open on this. And I'm saying that to everything. You have to be open on this to soak in the information. And that means not just also buying up what the official story may be. It's asking questions. It's looking out there and seeing what actually can be confirmed as fact. Prosecutors didn't just find a rifle. They found Robinson's DNA on the trigger, allegedly, on a towel wrapped around it. His fingerprints matched. So did a screwdriver left on the rooftop sniper perch. Also linked to him through DNA, surveillance footage captured a man matching his build and clothing, fleeing the rooftop. Ballistics tied the rifle to the single shot that killed Kirk. Not much of a gap here. There's physical evidence, there's a digital trail, there's cell tower pings, and it all intersects. And yet there are real cracks in the state's case that could become defense entry points, not because they prove a conspiracy, but because they show how even airtight cases leave room for narrative manipulation, depending on what side you are on. For instance, prosecutors allege Robinson returned to the scene, likely to retrieve the rifle. There may have even been an interaction with police, but so far, no body cam footage has been released confirming that encounter. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means the defense will argue if you had the footage, you'd show it. If you don't, how do we know what happened? That's not conspiracy, that's strategy. It's the defense doing their job, looking for places to challenge reliability. In a case is politically charged, every crack will be pried open. Another flashpoint, the FBI's early communication breakdown. I think this one's explainable. It's called incompetence. Director Kash Patel tweeted twice that they had the shooter in custody. Once while eating at an Italian restaurant between breadsticks. Where are the breadsticks? Before they actually did. Again, I think we know what that is. And for a brief window, even law enforcement sources weren't on the same page. That's not unheard of in the fog of fast-moving operation, but it matters because in conspiracy culture, confusion equals corruption. And if you were wrong then, how do we know you're right now? Especially when your main goal seems to be having everybody pat you on the back and tell you what a great straight shooter you are. You big boy, you Cash. Love those coins. Oh, did you make those from Call of Duty? Is that what you do now as a big boy in your big boy job? Oh, good. Yeah, the camera's over here, Cash. I'm not politically motivated. I'm sane motivated. That shit ain't fucking sane. It ain't competent. And it shouldn't be running the fucking FBI. That line of thinking turns honest error into perceived deception. And in a courtroom, it becomes another thread the defense can pull. So how about we get somebody more qualified, competent, history of, I don't know, law enforcement experience, not just podcasting? I don't know. Crazy thought. Qualified individuals for qualified positions, like the fucking director of the FBI. I made subs last week at Kmart. Well, come on in. You want to be the director of the CIA? I know you had a letter in your last one, Kmart. It's different. There's just 2 more letters. Subs are delicious. Oh, they're all closed down? Again, then there's the question of whether Robinson acted alone. Law enforcement has consistently said yes. There's no second shooter, no broader cell, no organizational involvement discovered at this time. But that hasn't stopped the rumors. A grainy photo circulating online supposedly shows Robinson walking with a woman before the shooting. Others claim there's unreleased video of female suspect on campus. Law enforcement hasn't confirmed any of that. They've been open about reviewing all possible ideas, but as of now, the official position is clear. It was a solo act. Still, the suspicion persists, and it's fueled in part by how deeply politicized this killing was. Charlie Kirk wasn't just a public figure. He was a lightning rod. To his supporters, he was a truth teller. To his critics, he was a provocateur. But either way, he was a symbol. And symbols attract not just loyalty, but rage. Prosecutors say Robinson was motivated by that rage. His online posts made it clear. His own words put the motive in black and white. But for people looking to question the official story, that very motive becomes ammunition. If Robinson hated Kirk that much, they argue maybe he was pushed. Maybe he was radicalized. Maybe he was recruited. But radicalization doesn't require a handler. It just requires exposure, isolation, obsession. Lone wolf ideology, as the FBI has documented for years, is a growing threat. A sniper-style attack, especially those involving politically motivated shooters, don't require a team. They require a decision, a target, a trigger, and access to a weapon. Check, check, check. He had all of it. And if Robinson's confession texts are to be believed, and again, they're already part of the legal record, he made that decision alone. He planned, he prepared, and he executed. His legal team now includes some of the most experienced death penalty attorneys in the country. Michael Byrd, who once represented Lyle Menendez, Richard Novak, with over 24 capital cases under his belt, and Utah's own Kathy Nestor, a highly regarded capital defender with federal experience. These aren't conspiracy theorists. They're legal strategists. They know the evidence against their client is extensive. They've already signaled that the timeline and forensic chain of custody will be key areas of attack. That's their job. And by the way, they were appointed to it, meaning you don't have a choice. But the bigger threat to the truth isn't what happens inside that courtroom. It's what happens outside, on social media, in clickbait videos, in outrage-driven commentary that cares more about the story than the facts. Because when conspiracy becomes entertainment, facts become optional. This isn't to say the prosecution has a perfect case. They don't. No case is immune to challenge. We haven't seen the full discovery. We haven't seen cross-examination. The burden is still on the state to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. That's how it should be. But the conspiracy theories that have taken hold around the case, a lot of them are not built on reasonable doubt. They're built on manufactured doubt, misinformation, on the assumption that nothing is real, no evidence can be trusted, and every authority is lying. And this is not reality. And it's not justice. Because you have one thing bad over here doesn't mean all of it's bad over there, and vice versa. Again, not justice. That's nihilism in disguise. What happened to Charlie Kirk was a political assassination. Prosecutors say they can prove it. The defense says, not so fast. That's the trial. That's the system. But for those chasing clicks by claiming it was all a setup, that the gun was planted, the texts were fake, the shooter's just a pawn, well, it's a word for that too. Disinformation. Because we don't know. And it doesn't bring us any closer to the truth. It buries it. Tell me what you guys think in the comments section. Interesting time we live in, isn't it? How do you trust? How do you believe? Especially when the very source of the information that you're supposed to believe as the record, the FBI, between bites of fettuccine Alfredo at Rao's, is texting how we got him, even though we didn't yet. Again, that's his incompetence. But it doesn't lead to confidence in the system when you're doing shit like that. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want confusion. Maybe that is the goal at the end of the day. I don't know. We're in a weird place. Give me your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. Be sure to press subscribe wherever you are downloading podcasts. So don't miss any of our coverage on this and the many cases we cover for you right here. I'm Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.